Hey guys, this is Moosetache by Margie Palatini, illustrated by Henry Cole. Moose had a problem, a horrible, hairy, prickly problem. It grew right below his nostrils and just above his upper lip. A moostache! Now, not a few spare hairs or shy little stubble, no mere weak, wandering whiskers on the upper lip of this moose. No siree, Moose had a big, bushy, bristly, mighty moostache. But a moostache was a burly, surly, mangy mess, and it itched a lot. Sure, he plucked, he tweezed, he even clipped, snipped, and teased, but his combs were still cowards, and his brushes still rebelled. His scissors simply surrendered. Moose was in a frizzy tizzy. The moostache was completely crimping his style. He was a great hoofer, but he could barely bop and hip hop, with the moostache going flip flop. He was a wonderful chef, but he simply could not flambe his souffle with all those whiskers in his way. And he was a daring skier, but how could he downhill race with his mighty moostache blowing in his face? Moose had to do something, and soon, but what? After days and days of much serious thought, Moose got an idea. He crossed some hair here, he crossed some hair there, and he tied his moostache around his neck. A moose scarf seemed to be the ideal answer to his problem. It was so simple, so easy, so perfectly perfect. He got another idea. He parted some hair this way, he parted some hair that way, and he heaped all that moostache on top of his head. A moose to chew antlers seemed to be the ideal answer to his problem. It was so simple, so easy, so perfectly perfect, until a squadron of squirrels and one very noisy gopher moved right inside the Moose Motel. They hurtled and hoarded, furrowed and burrowed in. Needless to say, it became quite crowded up there on Moose's head, and heavy and messy. And very, very noisy. The squirrels chitting and chatting, squeals and squawks woke Moose up every morning before the crack of dawn. And that gopher was giving the moose one hairy headache. Moose needed his sleep, he needed his rest, he needed his privacy. Moose chewed antlers. Nuts, said Moose. So he unparted and unpiled, untwisted and untwined, and said, adios to those hairy horns. But now what? What? A miserable moose took hold of a hunk of hair and he wrestled it. Then he roped it. He tethered it, tied it, tamed it. Aha! A moose tail. Now that was so simple. That was so easy. That was so not so perfectly perfect. Talk about a dizzy do. Moose didn't know if he was coming or going. Backward, forward, this way, that. He didn't know which end was which. Moose had to bail on the tail. And so he thought and thought and thought some more, but no other idea was a worthy winner. Braids were a bother, a moostache sweater, too sweltering, net, not. Poor Moose, his problem was truly terrible, unbearable, just downright sad. He felt so alone, he didn't know what else to do. Then, call it fate, call it destiny, it was probably dumb luck, but one day Moose tripped on his mustache and just had time to duck. Oomph! Pardon me, they both said as they bumped. Then they blinked, and they stared, and their hearts went thump, thump. She was a moose, with boofing so boudicous, outrageous, well, it was just plain old big. Hair after hair piled higher than high, a skyscraper dew of glorious curls, a tower of swirling twists and twirls. She was simply splendid, stupendous, absolutely superb. Of course, Moose had to ask how she did what she did to get such a do. Miss Moose winked and then whispered, "Just a little blue." So she helped he fearlessly plunge a hoof onto a fat pot of the white gooey goop. And carefully, oh so carefully, they glopped and they plopped, they pasted and they pressed, they coaxed and they curled every truly unruly, wayward whisker. Around and around they tweaked and twirled those horrible hairs until Moose's once mangy mess was now a wondrous winding wave of marvelous Moosetache. Moose gazed in the mirror and smiled a broad, moosey smile. He was so happy, so glad, just giddy with glee. He looked dashing and handsome. Moose gushed, "Is that really me?" With not a care for one hair, the moose pair boogied and bopped. They skied downhill, even uphill. Their cooking was hot, hot, hot. So of course, it wasn't long after that Moose and his Moosetache and his beautiful bride fox-trotted and tangoed and waltzed down the aisle. Good hair days, bad hair days, they vowed to love and cherish, and hearts heaped with love and pots filled with goop. They both sighed, "I do," glue, and promised never to part. It was so simple, so easy, so perfectly perfect, and it stuck. Well, thank you guys for listening to the book Moosetache. Very good book, one of my favorites. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.